a student that meets one of the diagnoses that is served by the Agency for Persons with Disabilities. So these are the resources they're required, the school districts are required to pass out during the IEP meeting, is VR information, APD information, Division of Blind Services information. Everybody knows what VR is when I say VR, right? Vocational rehabilitation. So you should be getting either a website link or a packet of information during the IEP as of age 12 and every year up from there regarding those different agencies. In addition, Florida in all 50 states got a big pot of money for the Work Incentive Opportunity Act that was passed by the feds. So these are called pre-employment transition services, and they're free services through the vocational rehabilitation offices. And so you want to make sure if you have a 14-year-old and up, that you access those services. With COVID, most of those services were done online. And what they do in those services is they provide job explorational counseling, they provide work readiness training, work-based learning experience, self-advocacy training, and post-secondary educational counseling. So if I were a vendor of vocational rehabilitation and you were my class of students aged 14 to 21, and I was providing those pre-employment transition services, I'd ask, do you like to work outside? Do you like to work inside? Do you like to work with people? Do you like to work by yourself? Do you like to work on computers? Do you like to work in the yard? Do you like to cook? You know, all the different stuff. Do you like to work on cars? That's what this service provides, and it's completely free. It's not income driven, none of that. It's a completely free service through the Vocational Rehabilitation Office. So age 15 and 16, the IEP process must include all the requirements from 12 on up. Then you review those measurable post-secondary goals. Those goals are based on what's revealed of the assessments, right? If I want to say I want to be an auto mechanic, the goal is going to be written that I want to be an auto mechanic. So, and then what we're going to make sure of, you're in the 9th grade, we're going to, all the general courses you have to take, we're going to throw in an auto mechanics course, hopefully, if we design a good schedule for you. If you want to go work out in culinary and a food service, we'll throw in a culinary course. That's how the schedule should be designed. So reviewing those measurable goals based on those age-appropriate assessments. I am bad with time, and they did 89 slides, so jump in if you have questions.
Will that then help the child or adult get into a specific school? Like let's say they don't have culinary at their home high school. Will that then open the door for them to go? Okay.
Yeah. If I have time at the end, I'll take you to one of the counties I serve. So they did a really neat thing. Like you said, certain high schools offer certain programs. You might not have culinary at the high school he's supposed to go to, so you might have to go to a different high school. So if it's already in the IEP, they're gonna have to figure out a way that he accesses the culinary program. So
would that be considered like a dual enrollment? Like, you know how some schools have like dual enrollment for kids, like they go to one school, but then if they have this like of something, they go to another school. I don't know if it's part of the day or like maybe twice a week.
It could be dual enrollment, but you could also take it as an elective.
Okay.
If the high school offers it. So
but that's what I'm saying, like they say if it doesn't offer it,
then it would be a dual enrollment.
Okay.
So with dual enrollment though, that usually would start later. You gotta see how he does first in the 9th grade with all those general stuff, algebra and all the stuff. But if it's offered at the high school, not the high school you might be at, it might be offered at another one, then yeah, if it's in the IEP, they're gonna have to figure out a way so that he can pursue his dreams, basically. These are the Florida statutes I was talking about. Remember, at age 12 is where we're identifying those transition services needs. At age 14, the first day of high school, you have to have a full transition plan in place. So that's all the information. I'm gonna email, is the sign-in sheet still going around? I'm gonna email you this exact presentation along with other resources. I just texted Franklin, he's gonna bring me the roadmaps for you all to have as well. So this is probably really, really important, is the deferment piece. So Florida is a little different than the other 49 states. Students with disabilities in Florida can defer the receipt of their standard diploma. So I meet all the graduation requirements. He meets all his you meet all your graduation requirements. You can graduate. Most high schools let you walk across the states, but they will hold your diploma if you need some more instruction in a certain area.
that include kids that are on access
Yes.
points?
Definitely those students especially, because most school districts offer a structured work study program. So what that is, a program designed, some offer Project Search. Have you all heard of Project Search? Project Search is a really, really cool program. Most of the time it's in a hospital setting. So that way students have different internships. They could be working in the cafeteria of the hospital, in custodial in the hospital. I forget what it's called, where they sterilize the instruments in that department as well. They could work in, I don't know, patient transporter. They can work in that department. So they rotate those different internships. So that's done as part of a deferment. You have to, though, need the continuation of transition planning, transition services, or any kind of special educational services in order to defer, which is relatively most students that are in access would need to defer because they still need continuation of services. And then you have to need one of these 5 areas, and in students on access, generally it's structured work study to learn what, what skills they're good at, to rotate different jobs so that that they can find the job they want, stick with it, and earn a living, basically. So, deferment is probably what most students on access will do. I really like Project Search. That's a really, really great program. Where are you at? What county?
Clay County of Mount Jacksonville.
Oh, yeah, I think they have a Project Search site there. I don't know who theirs is with. I cover Marion County, and in Marion County, ours is with a hotel. Ours is with the Hilton and Convention Center. So they not only housekeeping, they do the banquet, they do the maintenance. So they rotate all these different internships at the Hilton. Usually it's hospital settings. So that's what deferral is all about. So at age 18 or 17, everybody knows the rights will transfer unless you have guardianship, correct? Everybody understands that, right?
I'm sorry, say that again? The last part you just said?
So a student at the age of, at 17, before they turn 18, by law, they are now an adult, right? A legal adult. Their rights will transfer to them. So they can make their own educational decisions, all their own decisions, unless you are their appointed and assigned guardian, unless you have documentation that you are the guardian. Does that make sense? Your role as a parent stops because they're all grown up then.
I know.
So,
You're right.
No, it doesn't.
No, it's always gonna be there.
I was hoping you'd say that because my mama don't let me get away with anything, and I'm 55 years old. So, but
Right.
yeah, but legally it does.
Yeah.
So because that's.
But you can still guide them though through their
You
college
can still
process.
attend there, but if he says he doesn't want you there, then.
No, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying like as far as like being his own advocate once he turns 18 and goes to college, and what he needs to do that for himself. Like, but he can still ask us. They can still ask us for that guidance and advice, but we can't do it.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. Just what you said, just there. What I see most happen though is the student wants to do one thing and he's 18 and the parent wants him to do another thing, and it's like
Butting heads.
So that's what we have to be careful of too. It's like if the student really wants to be in culinary and wants to cook and that's their passion and you don't want that, you want the student to be an auto mechanic, you gotta let the kiddo live his dreams, right? So, general transition requirements, we don't need to get into that. So Florida has different pathways, so I'm glad you brought up access. That's one of the pathways. So in Florida, you can get a 24 credit or an 18 credit standard diploma via access. What that means is you're still earning a standard diploma, but it's for those students with the most significant disabilities, those intellectual disabilities, those kinds of disabilities. So that's the diploma designed for them. Am I making any sense? Yeah.
My understanding is with access points that a student cannot graduate and go into the military or go to a lot of trade schools and post-secondary education. Is that correct?
The military one is correct. Post-secondary education and technical schools, not so much. Depends on where you live. There are programs available for students that exit via access? So that's a great question. You know, I really don't want to do the PowerPoint, I'd rather talk. So the student on access that graduates or meets graduation can defer and go into a project search site to get those skills, you know, like the hospital rotation I talked about, or any kind of structured work study. Orange County has a lot of contracts with various hotels and various other places where those deferment students go to. They can also defer to go into career technical, depending on eligibility and getting into those programs, but they can. Some students on access will, because there might be a culinary program that they qualify and can get into. So that's another option. If you're in Orange County, you're probably in a good place, because there's also what's called, and they're presenting here today too, the Florida Center for Students with Unique Abilities. So a student who graduates, accepts their diploma, does not defer, can go into one of those programs. I can pull that up as well, but they're here, they have a table too. It's called the Florida Center for Students with Unique Abilities. UCF, where are you at?
I'm in Seminole County, so right
Yeah,
here.
UCF has a program. There's several around here that have programs for students on access.
While they're still in school and going through transition services, Seminole County has a very robust magnet program, but we have trouble getting our unique abilities kids into it. For example, I'm working with a family. I'm the mom, but I'm also an advocate. A girl wants to go into the cosmetology program, and they're not letting her in because they predetermined that she won't pass the math and chemistry to become a fully licensed cosmetologist. But she really wants to become a nail tech, and she has the ability with the extra supports to go through, be a nail tech, be the shampoo person, do the updos, do anything in the salon that does not involve the chemicals for bleaching and coloring and whatever hair.
That's where your advocacy skills need to come in. I hear what you're saying. So
Those programs, the culinary programs, the auto mechanic
Yeah.
programs, those would be ideal for our kids.
exactly, I 100%. Project 10 was, Franklin's just walked in the door, so my Seminole's yours, right? Orange. He is East Central Florida. I'm West Central, so he's the regional rep for the east side and the central side, and I'm West Central. So he covers some of yours, and I cover the other side. Then Lisa's down south in Miami-Dade, Lee County, and then Tracy's in the Panhandle, and then Leanne is northeast, like the Jacksonville, Clay area. And I'll pull up the map towards the end. I'm gonna veer away from the PowerPoint because I wanna stick with, because what you asked and what you asked is more what you all wanna know versus the PowerPoint slides. Because I am in 100% agreement with you. What we recently did as a project, part of this legislation I talked about, I don't know if you heard me talk about House Bill 173, which took effect July 1, 2021, which became Florida Statute 1003.5716, which is now Florida Board Rule as of March 15th, required that assessments and planning for transition occur as of age 12, and then a full transition plan be in place at age 14. Also required Project 10, us, to survey the entire state of, best practices and what may be needed too. So in that process, we're finding a greater need of that career technical stuff. And there are some barriers and challenges, and there used to not be as many barriers and challenges because we used to have what's called occupation completion points and modified occupation completion points. And I don't know if they're still there or what's going on exactly with them, but I'm 100% in agreement with you that a student may not get the full industry certification as a cosmetologist, but like you said, a student with a disability might be able to shampoo the hair, might be the receptionist and greeting the people coming into the beauty salon, might be able to do some of the tasks required, Same with auto mechanics. I may not get the full auto mechanic industry certification, but I can change tires like no other person, or I can change oil like no other person, and I can still get hired. So that's where your advocacy comes in, because you do want students accessing, because it's uniquely different in all. There are 67 traditional school districts, 75 in total. It's uniquely different in each county or school district in terms of those career technical programs and who they let in and which programs they let them into. Am I making sense?
Yes, well, a lot of it in Seminole anyway, a lot of it is based on the fact that the teacher's rating is tied to how many people graduate that get those certifications.
Yes, that was the biggest return on the survey we just did, is there are industry certification completion dollars that the technical schools give. So that's something you need to advocate for, that students with disabilities need more access to career technical programs.
We're gonna have 25% of our population with a diagnosed disability in Florida by 2050 if we don't figure a way to get it done.
Yeah.
We're gonna-
Because I'm totally with you. I'm like, the student with a disability needs are uniquely different, and they may not pass everything that's required of an industry certification, but they may be able to do a segment. Like I said, I could probably rotate tires, but I probably can't fix anything else when it comes. So why not give me an opportunity to earn a completion point and get hired by a Jiffy Lube? Jiffy Lube's still going to hire you under a full-fledged auto mechanic. So.
And the school will give you the accommodations to learn the job.
Yeah. So the biggest part, though, is there is the Florida Center for Students with Unique Abilities for students that graduate with an Access Standard Diploma that are students with an intellectual disability. Those programs are growing more and more, because the Florida Center for Unique Abilities, students with unique abilities, was given dollars to help create and expand those programs across the state. We just got one on our campus. Our mothership, or our main office, is at USF St. Pete, and the program's called You Matter, and it's really cool because we have a dormitory piece. So if the student is able to live on their own and maneuver the campus, because every student with disability varies in terms of what they can and can't do, right? If they have those independent skills to maneuver, they can participate in the program and they get those skills. So the roadmaps I talked about is Franklin's going to pass them out or pass them around. We love our roadmaps because they're our transition roadmaps. Basically, they cover everything that's supposed to happen in the IEP. Everything that's supposed to happen in terms of those decisions you need to make regarding transition, those post-secondary measurable goals, the age-appropriate assessments. Every agency you might need to get in touch with and get involved and get part of the IEP. The importance of self-determination, self-advocacy. We want students participating in their IEP. So these are the different diploma pathways. In Florida, we got the 24 credit standard traditional diploma. We got the 18 credit accelerated diploma. We've got the 24 and 18 credit access standard diploma. You got the career technical standard diploma. There's so many different diplomas. So they're going to review the different diploma pathways during every IEP as of the age of 12 on forward. And you, at the age of 14, are going to have to make that decision. What are you laughing at?
We've not touched on these at all.
Oh,
And
really?
I brought up transition IEP for the last 2 years.
Okay.
And they've not touched on that at all, up until this last articulation meeting. I was like, oh, well, he'll have to complete algebra and chemistry, I think they threw in there. And I'm like, he uses a number line to do simple addition, subtraction, can't do division, long division, or multiplication. And you're gonna want him to do algebra to get out, to finish.
Yeah, it's going to be access algebra.
It's like, if you lost your mind, you understand what you're saying. That's not gonna happen.
Yeah, and this is my opinion off the record. I hate that I'm being filmed, but that's okay, because I am 55. So, but
You guys are here for the PowerPoint, I apologize.
no, because I agree. I think that functional mathematics is so important. I think identifying coins and bills and making change and also all that stuff is so important. I think multiplication and
His teacher said that was really going the way of the past, and kind of useless, and moving over to debit cards and credit cards.
I
And like, if he can't identify a coin, you want him to know how to use the credit card and know what his debit card balance is, but he can't identify what the coin is.
Yeah, I would still strongly advocate for those skills during his IEP meeting. You're his best advocate. He can be his best advocate too. He needs to speak up and say, hey, I need some help with that, right? It's okay to speak up, right? Okay. So that's the biggest thing that we want to touch on is the self-determined. We talked about access enough, right? Because it's going to be all those access things. But I'm with you. I think functional mathematics is so important. Functional reading is so important. knowing that's an exit sign, knowing a stop sign. All those are functional reading skills. You need functional reading and functional math to have those independent living skills. The Access courses are important to meet graduation requirements, but maybe you can incorporate that other math credit with maybe liberal arts math. I'm trying to think of a course off the top of my head, and I can't, where they would cover that information, but maybe there's a course that would cover that information. There is also an academic employment-based diploma that we offer in Florida, but it's not utilized as much because you need a half a credit of employment, but you're gonna require all those other classes, so why go that route? So many students aren't going that route at all across the state, but it is an option and a pathway that's available in Florida. So let's go to that section in the roadmap. It talks about the student's responsibility, the family's responsibility right there. That is important, reading through that material because I want to push the fact that I want every student not only to be invited to their meeting, I want them to participate at some level to the best of their ability, to speak up, to say that these are the things they want to do. Go ahead.
But you need to be very stern with the people around the table, that they don't just go around the table talking about your child's failures.
Yes. The IEP.
And advocate for your child, or advocate to your child that that's their job, so that they can look at the stuff that's broken and fix it, but that they're not.
Yeah. The IEP should not be a negative experience, and for years and years it's been a negative experience, and we need to focus on students' strengths, their preferences, their interests. But we also do need to focus somewhat on their needs. You know, he's not getting this particular assignment, or he continues to have challenges when it comes to organization. So how can we help him get better as a school, as an IEP team? You get what I'm saying? So that still has to be part of it, but you better celebrate the successes that you are achieving, though. But if he's not meeting goals, or she's not meeting goals in certain areas, we do have to discuss that, because you got to figure out a way to overcome that. As an IEP team and as a school, how are we going to help that student become better? If it's organizational skills.
Can you request a benchmark based on what, not the standard, because every child is an individual, but a benchmark for you to guide and see where your child is based on the goals that they have established? So you can compare and say, okay, how do I bring this to where I need to be without stressing the child? Is there something that you can request like that as a benchmark, meaning, you know, like from this age to this age, this is like how many words they need to know, what are the skills that they need to know? Can you request that yearly?
Yeah, when they're drafting the annual goals, and in the annual goals you have those objectives and benchmarks. If they're not achieving, or if they're too high up there, maybe we need to figure out a different goal, a different annual goal, or different benchmark, or maybe we need to define or break down those benchmarks more so. Let's take identifying money, for instance. You know, you got, I haven't seen a $500 bill in a long time. Let's do 150. Let's do 150, a 20, 10, a 5, right, and a 1. Well, there's a $2 one out there, but you rarely see those
It's
anymore.
very rare.
Yeah. So just identifying those bills, the paper bills, right? Or you do coins. You got a penny, a nickel, a dime, a quarter, and a 50-cent piece is one of those you rarely see too, right? So you can have benchmarks, maybe start with the coins. All the coins are different in shape, right? Some are bigger, some are smaller. So those benchmarks could be adjusted to the level of ability of the student, right? You could say, we'll start with coins. It might take the student a little longer. We'll start with the shape and the size of the coin, you know? And then maybe the value. Like a nickel is this size and this shape. They hold it in their hand. They're like, okay, a nickel is worth 5 cents. Then you put, if I was teaching it, I'd put 2 10-cent pieces in. Okay, that's worth 10 cents. You got to count your fingers. That's worth 10 cents. And it's a smaller coin, that kind of stuff. But yes, you can during the IEP ask.
And the reason why I'm asking is because I work for Head Start of younger children, and when we get IEPs, we only see the goals that the therapist is implementing, but we don't see their benchmark as in why did they decide to do this. So of course, you know, we always have to go through the parent and say, hey, can you request this and this and this, so we can, you know, reinforce those skills in order to achieve those goals, but we don't have a benchmark as in where to go. And it doesn't matter the age of the child.
So you also want to see skill progression too.
Exactly, and
So
what
you
can
want to see
we-
the full range.
Exactly.
Yes, you can ask for that.
Okay. So there's, my question mainly was, does that exist?
Well,
Because
it should.
sometimes they tell you.
It should. If I was drafting the goals, I would break down the tasks from, like I just described, like from identifying penny, nickel, dime, quarter, 50-cent piece, to actually knowing the value of the coins would be the next level. I'm just giving you an example.
No,
off the
no,
bat.
and that's perfect for us because, like I said, you know, we refer based on what we see, but ultimately the parent is the one who has to be the advocate for that
Yeah.
child. And we're very proactive with the parents, and we establish very good relationships with them to the point that they know that our best interest is for that child's well-being. But sometimes they don't know what to ask, and we don't know exactly what can they provide to them. So the more knowledge we have to be able to provide for those parents, the more, I would say, you know, tools they have to go and ask and say, hey, I heard about this and this and this, can I have that? And when they go and ask for those things, they look at them like, oh, ooh, I'll get back to you, and that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
Because they're just going by certain things that they are establishing, but, you know, I will say, and I'm sorry, like you said, 80% of the time, they get desensitized and they just go by a margin, and they're not addressing the child's needs as an individual. So that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, you
I
can,
don't-
the parent can ask that.
I don't know if it would help. You can actually attend the IEP if the parent requests. They can.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
have
can invite,
go.
you can invite.
Yeah, no,
And
they
can
do.
send, they can send notification earlier to have them pull the data for you.
Yeah.
So
A
you
lot
can
of,
look at it.
the times when our parents request that, we kind of get to, you're not needed. And yeah, so it's what we call it in our work line is trying to bring that bridge closer. And it's the hurdle because what we do to when we go to the public school to get those meetings, we're not welcome. And sometimes it's because we know what to ask and they don't wanna hear that.
Don't worry, sometimes I'm not welcome in his meeting.
So you know what to ask.
If I was running the meeting, you all would be welcome, so. But, there are 67 school districts. I cover 12. I'm not allowed to go to the meetings, but I do provide the training to school districts on how an IEP is supposed to be conducted and what their legal requirements are, whether or not, the way it's supposed to be happens all the time. It varies from school district to district.
I appreciate that.
So I agree with you, I agree with you. This is the sign-in sheet. If it didn't make around with an evaluation form, grab an evaluation form because of course I have to be evaluated. Do you mind holding those for me if anybody comes, if you need one of those on your way out, or raise your hand if you need one of those. I want to keep going really quick because this is what I'm most passionate about. Is self-advocacy and self-determination. Self-advocacy is the art of speaking up and speaking up appropriately. And I think every student needs that skill. Years ago, I taught an entire school district K through 12 on how to teach those skills to students with disabilities. So I had as young as first graders running their own IEP, and you're like, how in the world did you do that? Well, I wish I had the pictures of the youngsters doing it. But all they did was talk about their strengths, their preferences, their interests, their needs, and what they want to do when they get out of school, what their future looks like. So I'll give you an example. A young man with autism really loves trains, is fascinated, loves trains, wants to be a train conductor, has train sets, he's a first grader, loves everything about trains. So in his IEP, he introduced his mom, his dad, and other people that he knew in the room. He might not know everybody because, you know, sometimes that IEP meeting has got a lot of players in it. And he said, in the meeting. He had a construction train made out of construction paper, and he said, "This is what keeps me on track. This is what derails me." Cute as it can be, right? But he's first grade. This was in 2010 that I taught this to the teachers to teach those skills. So this was in 2010. It is 2022 now. He is a senior in high school, and he will not be quiet during his IEP. That is a problem you want to have. Do you know why? Because now he can say, my math teacher doesn't give me the extended time that's on my IEP. My English teacher doesn't know I have an IEP. I constantly have to remind her, you know? So it's that skill. The younger we teach those self-advocacy skills, self-determination is part of self-advocacy. Self-advocacy is the art of speaking up, and self-determination is the actual making plans, setting goals, making decisions, and problem solving. And hopefully you all are doing that at home too, right? How many of y'all had chores growing up? Just because you're an individual or a student or a youngster with a disability doesn't mean you can't do chores, right? We gotta figure out a way to give them chores, correct? So, because it teaches those problem solving, making decisions, goal setting skills. So, so that's kind of your job at home. Is my sister did with her own kids? She did everything for them. So now they're spoiled rotten. So you get what I'm saying, though, right? Everybody, we all had chores.
But like even going to a restaurant, sitting in the restaurant, I'm like, tell them what you want.
Yeah, you have to order.
When we go in the sneaker store.
And if
tell them
you
what
have
sneaker you want.
difficulty communicating, you can point on the menu, right? Right? Because there's generally pictures on most menus. So, because you have individuals or students with disabilities with very significant disabilities, and they might be nonverbal. So, there are skills you can teach. Everybody has those skills that they need to advocate for themselves in some capacity. And I think everybody has the capability of working too in today's world.
But the only problem is that, you know, when your kids are home, they don't got no problem asking you for anything in the house. But when you out in the street or you in school, they quiet as a mouse. Quiet as a mouse.
They're not shy at home.
They're not shy at home, no.
They're shy at school.
They're shy at school.
I'm flying through these. Is this the end of it? Because I really want to get to questions. There's so many organizations out there. That's where I'm going to encourage you to do the exhibitor hall, right? Everybody's going through the exhibitor hall.
Yes.
There's so many, like I said, the Florida Center for Students with Unique Abilities is listed right here.
1, 2, 3. Oh.
I hear your voice. Okay. Did y'all hear that?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just making sure. So I want you to encourage you to go to this table because these programs are expanding. Those are students with intellectual disabilities or students on access. These are college programs. So these are students that won't defer. They will graduate, walk across the stage, and can go to these programs. Some programs have a dormitory, a residential component. But if you defer, you might go to a project search or a structured work study program. There's parent educational, there's the Family Network on Disabilities, there's youth leadership resources. Everything imaginable is in that exhibitor hall. So take your time going through that hall and meeting people and talking to people and getting those resources that you need. If I have your email on this sign-in sheet, what you will get from me, you're going to get an email from me. I'm going to give you our family guide. It needs to be updated, so I'm going to give you the old one until we have the new one updated. The only thing that's different about the old one and what needs to be updated is that age 12 component that I talked about with this new legislation. But what I like about the family guide, the secondary family guide, is to help you understand what's supposed to happen in the IEP. It also, what would be cool is if I had an actual paper version, I could pass it out and you could, there's a whole section on who you meet and who you need to hook up with in terms of services. Everybody in this room needs to meet with vocational rehabilitation, needs to follow through with vocational rehabilitation. If it's not just for those pre-employment transition services, they're completely free, but it's also for those traditional vocational rehabilitation services that they offer. The Division of Blind Services, if your student is visually impaired or is blind, those are services. Benefits planning, if your student is on SSI, your student can work on SSI. They need to meet with the benefits planner to see how many hours a week they can work, but everybody can work. The parent training centers, there's national resources, other resources, but you'll get an email with like a little brief overview of everything transition and resources. I'm just gonna hit the highlights in the email. If you don't, everybody wants an email from me? Make sure.
Yes.
Okay, that's why I got your email. So you'll get an email kind of summarizing this. I know this was a lot. This was 89 slides in an hour's time, and impossible to do. So any pressing questions? My favorite questions came from all over the place. Yours were great, everybody's was great.
I have a question.
The biggest piece though you all can do is advocate at your local schools.
When they go to college and they have a para, what happens then? Like the IEP, how does it transition? Because like in my son's case, he has a para, but it's for like help, you know, since he's in a wheelchair. But the curriculum is the regular curriculum. It's actually advanced curriculum.
So I can take you through different pathways. So he's not on access. He's gonna get a regular, standard, traditional high school diploma.
Yes.
So if he wants to go to a technical college or a college or university under the Americans with Disabilities Act, he's entitled to some services, but they won't provide the para or the one-on-one. So if he qualifies for the Agency for Persons with Disabilities under the Med waiver, they will pay for it. I don't know what the diagnosis.
He actually has it already.
Okay, so that will be provided through APD at the college and university.
So it'll be like an HHA, like a home health aid?
Yeah, that goes with him to school. But he also, at colleges and universities, you have to self-identify as a student with a disability. So the number one reason students with disabilities drop out of college and technical college programs is because they don't self-identify with the Office of Students with Disabilities. So that's why those self-advocacy skills are so important, because I, Freddie, have to go to that office at USF or at UCF, at UNF, or at UF, all the different colleges, and I have to say, I have a disability, I'm entitled to services under the Americans with Disabilities Act. Because you want to make sure not only the APD one-on-one or home health aid is with him, but whatever services the college can provide that he's entitled to. If though your student is a student on and is working, is duly enrolled, and still needs to finish up and still needs his one-on-one, you can also defer if he's like in a career technical class and he's finishing up graphic design. You can defer, which means they hold his diploma. Generally the principal of the high school lets them walk and with their graduating class, but they hold the diploma until he finishes the deferment program of what he's working on. Let's say it's graphic design through the career technical program. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's the deferment's an option, but going straight to college is an option, just depending on, you know, does he have all the supports he needs through APD, and is he able to tell the college he has a disability so he can get services through that?
But when they're in the 12th grade and they're getting ready in the transition to go to college, isn't there a last IEP meeting with him?
Yes.
And that if they give him that paperwork, that he can take that with him to that office in the college?
That's the intent of the summary of performance. And I can't believe that was a part of the 89 slides. The summary of performance is the last piece of paper you get. And yes, and in that summary of performance it says, these are the things I do well, these are the things I struggle with, these are the things that, you know, help me be successful. So it's kind of a summary of what helps them. And then if it was me, I would take it to the Office of Students with Disabilities at the college, and they in turn will provide me with services under the Americans with Disabilities Act. So if it's a student on access, they would defer. Generally they defer and get services still at the high school, but students that aren't on access, like your son, could defer if they continue to need some services. But more than likely, it sounds like he was doing well in his classes. If he has the APD, if he has the one-on-one aid, if he's toward the college, that's what I would start doing. How old is he?
He's 12.
He's 12.
That's it.
Oh, okay. Hey, there you are. Okay, I didn't know he was back there. So you can speak up for yourself, and you know what you need. So if he does all what he needs to do, when it comes time, his junior year probably, or his sophomore year, I would ask during the IEP, can he tour some college campuses? They can arrange that. Or they can have the Office of Students with Disabilities from the college campus come visit. So, you know, if you lived in St. Petersburg, where my campus is, USF, we take visitors all the time to visit our campus. In addition.
And what if it's in a different county? That's okay too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You might have to do the transportation, but yeah, it's
Okay.
okay. But they can set everything up for you and make sure it's set up for you, because that's part of transition planning. So.
This has been amazing. I've learned so much. I just want to say that. I'm sorry. Like, I just had to.
Thank you, appreciate that. I wish I had more time. I wish I could have done it my way, because everything we do has to be done like scripted a little bit, because we are a project that is funded through IDA dollars and through the Florida Department of Education. But I kind of am more of an interactive person. I wanted to show you some videos, and all that would have probably had to have been improved. But this is, hopefully it's been helpful. You will get an email with me with my information. If you ever have any questions, my cell phone number is public record, so I do get phone calls and, from all hours, all the time. When COVID hit, I got a lot of phone calls from other states, people moving here. Anybody just recently moved to Florida? Good. So I won't. Sometimes other states are different too. Like APD has a very long waiting list, and you start from scratch when you move here. So I had to explain to people that, you know, if you're getting a lot of services and you have a child with very significant needs and getting all those services, you have to start over when you relocate here. So you need to make sure that's really what you want to do, and those kinds of things. It was, you know, hard for people to understand. And right now it's not the time to move to Florida anyway. It's a, what is it? It's a seller's market, not a rent the sky or high. You could sell your house for a lot of money, so I don't know. But I'm available 24/7 on my phone if you need anything. But I'm going to hook you up with your regional person, so because I'm getting closer and closer to that retirement and going fishing in North Carolina, because a lot of traffic here, especially on I-4. I don't know. Where my Orange County folks?
Right.
Ooh, I don't know how y'all do. I know how you do I-4, but.
No, we don't even take out food.
And then the people in Miami is I-95.
Miami is everywhere.
Yeah, and with me it's I-75. So if you didn't get a roadmap, the gentleman at the door, if he can lay it on the floor right there, or anybody need one still. If not, I'll take them back. Any other questions? Everybody leave your evaluation form on your chair. Hopefully you didn't give me any ones.
I didn't get the evaluation.
Oh, you didn't get an evaluation?